All right, so we're back with Judge Hodges, part two here. We had some technical difficulties, but what I was talking about was there are several great careers in the court system that work with you every day that aren't necessarily elected. They aren't necessarily people with legal degrees. So, talk about some of the careers in the courtroom that are extremely important to the court running every day.
The court reporter. She is one of the most important persons, or she or he. The court reporter is very, very important, and it's almost like a dying career right now because we have a court reporter shortage. But court reporters make a lot of money, and people don't realize that. They used to have the court reporting school in northern Mississippi, and they're wanting to restart the program. And so they are looking for people. You can leave high school and enter into the court reporting program and come out making, I think, about $75,000. So that is a very good career. What you do as a court reporter is you sit in the courtroom. You are always with the judge when the judge has court. You sit in your designated area. You have your own area of the courtroom, your own desk and everything. And you also have your court reporting machinery, and you type each and every word that's spoken in the courtroom. You are very important because each and every word that's spoken in the courtroom, sometimes the judge has to go back and look at to see what happened to make some decisions later on if the case comes back to court. Or some people like to appeal. They didn't like the result that happened in court, and so they want to appeal. And so that record, each and every word typed by the court reporter, is a record. They will take that record and use it to argue why another decision should be made on their behalf. And of course, this record is reviewed by the judges who sit on the Court of Appeals, and also the Supreme Court justices here in the state of Mississippi. So that's a very good career to have because you will be with a judge as long as they are there. And some court reporters, they freelance. So they don't necessarily work for a judge, but they freelance. So they work for many judges, or they take depositions. So they're taking down each and every word that's being said outside of the courtroom, but in another formal legal setting where two attorneys are there. Maybe there's a mediator or no mediator, but the attorneys are there and their clients, and they are asking the clients lots of questions. So that's what happens in a deposition. Another career that's really good are the clerks. The clerks that work at the court, they are your best friends as well, because those are the people you will see long before you ever see the judge or a court reporter. The clerks, they assist the actual elected clerk of the court. So here in Chancery Court, Eddie Jean Carr is the actual clerk. She's the elected clerk, and then she has deputy clerks that work under her, and those ladies keep up with all the filing. So if you say, "Look, Bobby Joe punched me in my jaw, and I want to file domestic violence charges against him, and I want a restraining order," well, guess who you'll see first? The clerks, the deputy clerks. You'll see them first. They'll take your money. You have to pay a filing fee. You'll file your complaint, and then they'll issue you a summons, and then you can get Bobby Joe served so he know when to show up. Another important job, the bailiff. So you all may be familiar with the guy who all of a sudden grew wings and he could fly. He flew over the judge's bench and charged at her. So that was recently in the news. So
Yeah, that
those
was
bailiffs,
in
yeah, those bailiffs didn't know how to fight. See, I got me a bailiff that know how to fight. And so my bailiff is very important in my courtroom because in family law court, Chancery Court, when you talk about taking people's children, taking their land, their wife, their man, their money, people want to fight. So the bailiff is very important. Now, the bailiff works for the sheriff's department. So the bailiff gets paid through the sheriff's department. Sometimes the judges, we can pick our bailiff, and sometimes you just get assigned somebody because there may be a shortage. And so my bailiff, and like other bailiffs, they usually come very equipped. They're very assertive, and they are ready to protect the judge the entire time. Not like in that clip we saw, that man that flew over at the judge. Please don't try that in any of these courtrooms in the state of Mississippi, because I know I've practiced around the state prior to becoming a judge, and the bailiffs, they're always very froggy. They're ready for action, because usually there's not a lot of action that takes place. So when action does take place, the bailiffs are very ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I know you did mention about how you were elected to this position, and I think it's important to distinguish the different types of judges and how they are put on the bench, because federal judges are obviously appointed by the president, state judges
Hmm.
are appointed by the governor, but our county and municipal judges are elected. So this is
Yeah.
your position. Even though we're in Madison County, your position in Madison County, this is a position that these young people, when they vote in this next election, will need to be familiar with, because they're deciding who sits on this bench and who is in that courtroom as the clerk.
That's right. And Mississippi, we are unique because we have an election every year. And so different people run at different times. So the judges, we run every 4 years. If like unfortunately we had a judge to pass after I was sworn in, that was Judge Loretta Cooper Stokes. And so her seat was filled by a judge. They went ahead and just appointed someone to serve in her seat temporarily until the governor decided he would appoint someone. So he recently, either the governor, sometimes the governor does it, and sometimes the chief justice does it. It just depends. And so the governor went ahead and appointed someone to serve in the county court seat. That judge is Judge Peter Tawison. And so now that he has been appointed to serve in her seat till the end of her term, he has to run in what we call a special election. And so the special election is this year. He does have an opponent, and so he and his opponent, or anyone else who would get in this race before the deadline, which I hear is next week, the closing next week, they will all face off and run against each other. I say face off because I feel like it's a face off when you're running a race. I know this because I've just finished doing all of this, so it feels like a face off. And then, of course, so that's a county court seat. County court is above justice court. And of course, in county court, you do have to go to law school, have and be barred, have practiced by a minimum of 5 years. You don't necessarily have to have the experience, but it's always best to have the experience. You need that point of reference as a judge. And above county court, you got circuit court. They are elected as well, have to be attorneys, barred, licensed, and then chancery court. We like kind of neck and neck with circuit court. So neither of us are above the other because we have a lot of equal powers. Chancery court, we like to say we have more power, and which we do, because jurors do not decide the outcomes over in Chancery Court. The Chancery Court judges are the ones with all the power. We are the sole fact finder of each and every case that comes before us, unless someone requests a jury trial. And usually people request jury trials in Chancery Court when there is a will contest. Remember when I talked about how Big Mama and Big Daddy may have left a boat, and little JoJo was supposed to get the boat by the wheel, but then another family member say, "No, I'll take you to court because I think you influenced Big Dad to give you that boat, and he promised it to me." So a jury can hear that if someone requests a jury trial, but the chancellors, we have a whole lot of power. And then of course you got your Court of Appeals. They run and they sit for 8 years. So circuit, county, and chancery, we sit for 4 years. But Court of Appeals, they sit for 8 years once they are elected, and they do run. And unlike the county, all the county judges, because when I say county judges, I mean county, circuit, and chancery judges, we run within our county. The Court of Appeals, they run within a section of the state. And I have to
North,
say it
Central, and
like
South.
that.
Yeah, North,
Yes,
Central,
because
South
they
Mississippi.
have many counties that make up their seat. And so they should sit for 8 years. That's a lot of ground to cover
Yeah,
when
and
you're
the
trying to
Mississippi
become
Supreme
elected.
Court is the same way as well.
Yes, so they get their 8 years. And we sometimes there are challengers, sometimes there are not challengers. As a sitting judge, I prefer to not have a challenger, but you know.
Well, before I get to the students' questions, I go over all that to say, obviously we have an election coming up in November. We're having a presidential election, but that's not the only election on the ballot. A good friend of our class is former Mayor Tony Yarber, and he has always encouraged these kids to pay attention to the bottom of the ballot. Pay attention to the ones that you see after the federal office. That's the ones that are making the everyday decisions. That's the ones that are interpreting these cases. Because at the end of the day, right or wrong, how you feel about something is morally, it's what the law says. So if you have a bad divorce and you don't have a prenuptial agreement, the law says no matter, for the most part, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the law entitles somebody to a certain amount of your estate if you're divorced in the state of Mississippi, correct?
Okay, you may be using the terms a little differently. So in
Okay.
Mississippi, we're a state of equity. So like I always tell people on the bench, we're not like that Kanye song, that when she leave you, she gonna leave with half. We're not that state. We're a state of equity. So that means if you say, let's say people been married 20 years. I've had some divorces like this before becoming a judge. They've been married for an extended period of time. So if you're married to someone over 15 years in the state of Mississippi, most judges will try to make you as whole as possible if there is a need, because you have to demonstrate a need. And also, you have to show the misuse of assets and things of that nature. So there are a lot of factors that come into play. So we're just a state of equity, and we're trying to make you whole and try to put the people on the best footing we possibly can when you separate. Now, if you divorce your spouse and your divorce documents, you waive the right to share in their estate. So if like in my first marriage, Greer and we're divorced. If I somehow buy the farm before him, he cannot get anything from my estate. My new husband will get everything, and our children, versus my ex-husband. Now I got to make sure that they don't get my PERS. See, PERS will run a little different. So when you work a job, you have retirement benefits, you marry somebody, but you divorce and you've named that first spouse as your beneficiary, make sure you change that, because those benefits run differently. Also, if you name someone on an insurance policy, sometimes they may not be able to collect because you all divorced. So when y'all were married, things were good, you left them $1 million, but then y'all divorced, but you forgot about the policy, they ain't getting the $1 million.
Yeah,
so your family might fight it, so they ain't getting the $1 million.
Yeah, and again, and these kids may think these things aren't going to affect them, but these are things obviously everybody can't be a legal professional, but it's important to be familiar with these things and know who is sitting on the bench and make sure you have your voice heard when you do vote. Because obviously,
the
there was a time.
legislators are the people who making all these rules around here. And so over in the legislature, interestingly enough, you do not have to go to law school to make laws down there, as I hear. Yeah. And so you can those are the ones who are making all the laws. And so the people you have to keep your eye on mostly are the legislators, because they are they be making some laws now. And some of them laws, like I had just got sworn in, got on the bench. Here comes House Bill 1020. Let's just get rid of all the judges in Hinds County and replace them with, people we want to appoint. Well, no, it don't work like that. That's why we got a constitution. The court I serve on is created by the Constitution, not by you. So, you got to keep your eyes on the people who are making the laws. As a judge, I interpret the laws, but down at the legislator, they make the laws. And so those are the people you have to watch. And I'm sure somebody's hearing this and going, forget watching, I'm going to be them, and that's great. But I want you to be making good decisions down at the Capitol as a legislature. When I was out practicing, I would always ask attorneys, I'm like, would you make the same decision if this involved your mother? Because people love their mothers. So, I always kept that in mind myself, even as a judge. Is this a decision that would I let my mother be subjected to this type of decision? So that's everyone in mind.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm not in the business of endorsing one way or the other, but I just think every person, especially these seniors about to be ready to vote, need to pay attention to that stuff. Need to know what laws they have, how that's interpreted, how the system works. But I do have just a few questions, and these are really good. This person is DeKayla Williamson. She's a sophomore, one of our cheerleaders here at Velma Jackson, and she asked, "How do you deal with stress when you have a stressful case?"
Woo. So yeah, so usually I try to make sure I debrief when I leave work, and debriefing may be something as simple as I might go out and start window shopping, because I like to, instead of just window shopping on my phone and getting some delivered, I might just go out to the store and just walk around. I might, get my favorite snack and I just walk for an hour or two, just window shopping, browsing around little home goods. And I always hope I don't bring any of the furniture back that I saw that looked good. But to keep down the stress on a daily basis, I work out. So I make sure I work out before I come in to work so I can get totally zen so that everyone is getting the best Judge Hodges, not the low vibrating Hodges, but the highest vibrating Judge Hodges. And so that's usually how I handle a lot of stress. And I also make sure I talk with a counselor every 2 weeks. It's something I've been doing for some years now. Not because I'm crazy. You're not crazy if you go see somebody to talk to them. As an attorney, I had a duty to my client to keep all their communications confidential, except what we revealed in court. And as a judge, I cannot discuss any of the cases. And so I use that time with the counselor to talk about everything that happened and everything, because I'm constantly taking in everyone's problems, and so I have to be able to put that back out and and express it and just blow it out. And so I do that by seeing a counselor. So that's my number one way of processing, because really when I'm hearing all those things, I need to process all those things to keep my stress low. And so those are good ways. And you can do that now, because I know as a teenager, you're stressed.
Absolutely. Here's a good one. This is Harmony Williams. She's a senior captain of our dance team here at Velma Jackson. And she asked, "What type of cases do you enjoy the most?"
I enjoy the adoptions the most. They are the sweetest because that means the children are going to a home, a permanent home, and they are going to be loved on. And I can feel the love in the room when they come and adopt the children. The first adoption I had, strangely enough, was an actual case I was prosecuting. And so I wasn't a prosecutor anymore because I won the election. And then the first adoption I had was with that little girl. And so I was just so glad to get the development. I don't know if her parents have gone to jail or not, but I know that they will never be able to hurt her again because she is with very good parents now. And
That's
I
awesome.
was able to get her adopted. So I am just so thankful. So that's the best part of my day, the adoptions. Now when they clawing each other eyes out in them divorces, then that's when I gotta go window shopping.
Yeah, and that's a great segue to the next question. And this is Contravian Young, senior member of our football team and our state championship track team here at Velma Jackson. And he asked, "What's the toughest case to deal with as a judge?"
It sometimes depends. But usually it's something most of the time it's those cases dealing when it's very heart-wrenching. When you have cases where maybe a parent just was never there for a child, but now the child has passed away and they want to share in the death benefits. And why are you here why are you here now after all this time trying to share in
Wow.
these benefits, and that's the question that the parent who's been there the whole time is asking, why now, why are you here? And so I have to hear cases like that. Or one of the tougher ones I had before the holidays was, I had two parents, one parent or both parents about on equal footing with each other, but they had a teenage son who he was being a teenager. And I'm sorry, teenagers listening. Please treat your parents better because they love you. I promise you they love you. They may be tough, but they love you and they want what's best for you. And he wanted to have it his way, like Burger King. His name wasn't Burger King, so he can't have it his way. And so mom let him go live with dad, and dad tried to, give him some leeway, but also staying pretty strict on him, making sure he's going to school. If the school called, he was there. He got tired. The son got tired of it. He didn't want nobody staying on him about school and not doing all these other things you shouldn't be doing this age, i.e. smoking weed and things of that nature. I don't care if you can grow it and it's a herb. You're not ready for it right now. He saves his money, flies back to see mom and wants to live with mom. And then he had his parents in court fighting. I'm like, y'all could have just called me over the phone. We could have talked about this. I could have told you. He's just a teenager. And so I had to, but the son revealed why he acted the way he acted in the courtroom. And it stemmed from him feeling a certain way after his parents divorced. And so that's why seeing a counselor is very important. They have him in counseling, and it has been helping. And what I did, I bridged the gap for him. That way, if he feels like it's getting too tough to live with mom, he can just fly back to Mississippi and live with dad and go to school if he wants. But that was a tough one to watch.
Wow. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us despite our technical difficulties. But before we go, but before we go, just remind these kids of why it's so important to be familiar with their rights and their responsibilities as employees and as citizens, and to understand that the legal system has changed since our grandparents came through, and and especially the Chancery Court is really here to help. And also, there's some great careers that they can make a lot of money in the court system.
Yes, it's very important to not be familiar with the laws, even if it's just a little bit. I mean, one thing you don't want to become is a parent and somebody snatch your child and you don't know what to do. Other than call the police and, law enforcement, they are a little limited. We can teach them as much as possible, but they don't go to law school. They go to the academy to learn how to protect and serve. And so when you know some laws and you're familiar with them, or just know who you can contact, that helps you out a great deal. And it's also a great idea to stay up on the elections, because the elections are what affect us the most. When you go out and cast your vote for somebody to work down at the legislature, you vote for your senator, you vote for your representative. Those are very important positions, because those are people who are making laws. And then you got to keep up with your elections about the judges, because those are people who you'll see, like in the county court election that's coming up this year for the special election in Hinds County. If you were living at your apartment and you say, I ain't paying this bill, I'm not paying my rent, well, guess what? They can take you to either justice court or county court, depending on the amount of money and rent you hadn't paid, and try to evict you. And that judge will interpret the laws that were made by the legislators. And so then you kind of stuck if you feel like it's not turning out the way you want, or somebody is misinterpreting the law, or maybe the law should be better. When you feel like the law isn't good, you can rally some friends and some groups, and y'all can go down to the Capitol and make them change the law. They did that for expanding Medicaid, and Governor Tate Reeves, he expanded for mothers from 90 days to a year, which is great. That's a win for mothers, because we have we won't get on all those tangents today, but it's very important to just stay up on the people who are making the laws at the legislature and the people who are interpreting the laws, because at the end of the day, you want a great result. You don't want to leave somewhere with pulling your hair out because you feel like, who are these people? And what have they been learning all this time?
Exactly. I don't care who people vote for, but get in there and vote for somebody. Everybody needs to have a say. So again, thank you so much for fitting us in your tight schedule today. The Honorable Tametrice Hodges, Hinds County Chancery Court, District 3. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank y'all. Good luck with everything.
All right. Talk to you soon, my friend.
All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.